Right, so that's a little bit of a précis as to where we are, how we got here to where we are today. Let's speak now to Cornelia Meyer. She's CEO of Meyer Resource. She's an energy economist. She's joining us live from London. Nice to talk to you, Cornelia. Where would you say we are at right now? Depends on what the real situation is out of Vienna, whether the Europeans have provided enough assurances to the Iranians that they can circumvent sanctions or not. I mean, where do you think Vienna has taken us today?
Hello, Martin. I think it's a good thing that Vienna has sort of held off of Iran saying, OK, we'll no longer adhere to the JCPOA, to the nuclear deal, because Iran, let's not forget, the Americans went out of it May of last year, and the Iranians have adhered to the agreement despite the Americans not being in there anymore, and despite having sanctions. It's difficult for the Europeans because, yes, they want to have this payment mechanism. That will be very difficult because you can obviously put pressure on countries. And also Brian Hook can put pressure on countries. But in the end, the actors will be companies. And Brian Hook said something that, you know, most companies feel, which is like, do I threaten my relationship with the world's largest economy for an for an emerging economy which is inefficient and has 80 million people in it? So most of the European companies, especially banks, also big oil companies, will go with the US. Obviously, you saw that when Total said, OK, we will write off our investment in the South Pars field.
Right. All Iran says is it wants the ability to sell its oil. Who is I mean, the American policy, of course, is to completely turn off the spigot. Who is buying Iranian oil at the moment, and will they continue to do so? I guess that's a critical question.
Yeah, it is. And there's obviously a lot of smuggling going on. But, you know, the Chinese need Iranian oil. The Indians need Iranian oil because the refineries actually need the heavy crude that Iran can provide them. And with Venezuelan production having fallen off a cliff, Iran is the other source of heavy crude, which the refiners want. Turkey would like to buy Iranian oil. There are people there, and probably the Indians and especially the Chinese will not be as fussed by Iran, but a threat of Iranian sanctions as the Europeans will be.
Right. And the Europeans, they're saying that they're desperate to save the vestiges of this nuclear deal. They've got to come up with this Instex arrangement. If indeed it does come to fruition, will it be enough to keep the Iranian economy turning over?
No, it will probably not be enough, and I don't see how it can actually come into fruition, because again, you need companies to be willing to go with Instex, and you know, if the threat is if you go with Instex, you lose access to the American market. Most companies won't do that. So that's really the crux of the problem. Another problem with the Europeans is in the UK they're obsessed with Brexit. You have Jeremy Hunt, the foreign secretary, who is a leadership candidate who is focused on that. The French and the Germans don't see eye to eye on Europe, so they're not as cohesive a bloc as they should be.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Cornelia Meyer talking to us live from London.